Hebrews chapter 11. We're talking about, and of course, this is the faith chapter. Everybody, it's labeled the faith chapter and everything else. But I'm going to read this chapter, okay? And I'm going to read down through verse 3 of chapter 12. So, just bear with me. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous, God testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. By faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found because God had translated him. For before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. But without faith, it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. By faith, Noah, being warned of God of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world, and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for inheritance, obeyed, and he went out not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is of God. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. Therefore sprang there even of one, and him as good as dead, as so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the sea shore innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed they were strangers and pilgrims in the earth. For they that say such things declared plainly that they'd seek a country. And truly, if they'd been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have an opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country that is in heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he hath prepared for them a city. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he had received the promises, offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said, that in Isaac thy seed shall be called. Accounting God that God was able to raise him up, even from the dead, from whence he also received him in a figure. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph, and worshipped leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel, and gave commandment concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect on the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians, essaying to do, were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days. By faith, the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. And what shall I say more? For the time would befall me to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson, and of Jephthah, of David also, and Samuel, and of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead raised to life again. Others were tortured, not accepting deliverance, that they might obtain a better resurrection. And others had a trial of cruel mockings and scourgings, yea, moreover, of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, were tempted, were slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in mountains and in dens and in caves of the earth. And these all, having attained a good report through faith, received not the promise, God having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. Chapter 12, wherefore, seeing we are also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of God, of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradictions of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds. Now, this whole chapter was talking about people who had faith in God. No matter their circumstances, no matter what they were going through, their faith didn't waver. They trusted in God. So what is faith? What is faith? It says it's the faith, it's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. But what is faith really? It's trust. Faith is trust. Faith is trusting in God to take care of the situation that you're in, or to deliver you from whatever situation you're in, or to guide you wherever He tells you to go. All right? We read about Abraham. He was going to a place he didn't even know. He just left and went because God told him to. Sarah was beyond age to have children, but she trusted in God and she delivered a child. Abraham, he trusted in God when he was delivering up Isaac. And what did he do? He provided a ram for sacrifice instead of Isaac. All these people we read about, they all had that common thread. They trusted in God. They trusted His promises. They trusted in Him who they believed, okay? Faith is, you can say, now trust is some things hoped for. I trust in God to give me those things that I've hoped for. I'm trusting in Him to deliver me to a better place, a heavenly place, a place that was made by God Himself that man's hands have not touched. I'm trusting in Him to deliver me from a cruel world we live in. I'm trusting Him to deliver me from whatever situation Satan throws at me. All right? Now, I have faith in this. I have hoping for this. And the evidence of things not seen, I may not be able to see God doing these things. I may not be able to see Him face to face right now, but I trust in His promises. I trust in Him that there's a place for me in heaven. I trust in Him that He's built my mansion waiting upon me somewhere in that golden city. I trust in Him today because I believe in what His Word says. I believe in what He's done. I believe in what He's going to do. If I don't have faith in Him, what do I have faith in today? If I can't trust the God that created the universe and delivered all these people and did the things He said He's going to do, who can I trust today? Can I trust man? No, sir, you cannot. Man will lie to you. Man will cheat you. Man will steal from you. Man will persecute you, revile you, imprison you, beat you, whatever. But I can trust in a God that has never failed. I can trust in a God that was with the Israelites when they were going across on dry land to deliver them from the Egyptians. What happened? They trusted Him. They walked through, not in mud, but on dry ground. And when they got across, what did He do? He caused the waters to crash back down upon the Egyptians. And did you know that archaeologists are still finding things at the bottom of that river right there, the Red Sea, where God had caused the water to come back down on the Egyptians? He did what He said He would do. He delivered His children. We are His children. Now, I said a while ago we need to pray for the nation of Israel, okay? Because that's where everything's going to be. Now, when people, I listened to Adrian Rogers the other day, and some of you may have seen it. Brother Adrian Rogers was talking about when we call ourselves Christians, we're not really Christians. We're children of God. Now, you may call ourselves Christians, but we're grafted in with the children of Israel. All right? We are children of God. We label ourselves these things, whatever, but we are children of God just like they are. Okay? So whatever happens to them, we should consider happening to us. All right, because we're all one people under God Himself. So when we read this chapter, all these things we read, all these things these people did, we can do the same thing. We can be heroes of faith as well. We can put our trust in God to deliver us and help us. It said, who through faith subdued kingdoms, who wrought righteousness, who obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Now, what has changed over these years? What has changed from that time this was written? Has God changed? Our faith has changed. Our trust has changed. We don't trust God like they did. We don't trust God to deliver us and help us, provide for us, deliver us from the enemy, whatever it calls for here. We don't trust God like they did. We rely on ourselves. We rely on science. We rely on other people, this, that, and the other. The only person that we can trust today with our salvation is Jesus Christ. That's it. That's it. All right? Now, I read these things. I read all these things these people went through. They went through some times. They went through some hardships. They went through some difficult periods in their life. Now, let me tell you what the difference is. These people kept on going, trusting God to do these things. And when things get hard for us, we'll move back. We'll sit down. Brother Dale always said it, a little rain in the windshield and people stay at the house. That's the truth. When things get difficult, we tend to quit. Why? The same God that did all these things is the same God we serve, isn't it? He's the same God that we put our trust in. Then why don't we trust him like they did? Why don't we say, God, here I am, send me wherever you want to send me? Why don't we say, God, hey, whatever I'm going through, I know that you're going to get me through it. I may be in the valley right now, but I know I'm going to the mountaintop. He's the same God, the same one that shut the mouths of lions. He's the same one that delivered Daniel in the lion's den. He's the same one that was in 3 Hebrew children, not didn't smell of smoke, not a hair singed. How in the world can he do all these things and not do them for me and you? He will. He's still that same God. We just got to have the faith that God is going to do these things. Now, you think about it, we live in a different time. We live in a different culture than those people did, all right? And I have to look at this and read, okay? I focus on this, but I'm reading about people that live in a different society than we did and a different time we did, all right? I understand that. But my God is still the same God. All right, Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. He has never changed, will never change. You cannot change his word. You cannot change his promises. You can't change anything about him. We must change. Our faith must grow. It must begin to grow in the word, to grow in the trust of God, to understand God's word, to know that he is there when we need him. When our Sunday school class this morning, it talks about, having compassion and sympathy. God is not a God that's far off. The Bible tells us we have a high priest that can't be touched, that cannot be touched with our infirmities. He is here with us. He's near to us. He understands us. He gets us. He sympathizes us. You know why? Because he lived among us. He lived among human beings. He felt as they felt. He suffered as they suffered. He was tempted as they're tempted on all points, but without sin. But you know what? He trusted his Father as well. You may say, well, he was the Son of God. What did he have to trust? He trusted his Father's plan. He trusted that God would help him, that God would give him strength, that God would give him guidance. When he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was praying for strength, he was praying for help, and his Father helped him. What other way could he make it up that hill with that cross upon his back? How else could he lay down and stretch out his arms and his feet for him to crucify and nail him to a cross? It was by trusting his Father's plan. Trust God's plan for your life today. We all have a race to run. Everybody does. Now, you may run down a different path than I do, but you've got a race to run today. These people had a race to run. They had different challenges than we do sometimes. But let me tell you something. We're all similar in that we trust a God that can deliver, okay? We trust a God that can deliver us and help us and provide for us. He's given us shelter. He's given us food. He's given us everything we need to survive in this world today. If he will clothe the lilies of the valley, he'll clothe me and you. If he'll feed the sparrows, he'll feed me and you. If you need shelter, he'll give it to you today. If you need deliverance, he's got it. If you need the chains broken, he can break them. If you need help spiritually, he can give you that. If you need mentally, physically, he can do that as well. He is an all-seeing, all-knowing God, and he loves you to the point that he gave his son for you. And let me tell you something. If we can't put our trust in him and know that he can do these things, then we're going to be in trouble. We are of all men most miserable. We're going to be in trouble. Trust. There's people in this world that I trust, okay? I trust people to be fair with me. I trust people to be honest with me. Just for example, I trust Misty. I trust Jeremy. I trust Jeff. I trust Randy. I trust people, okay? But people will fail me. But there's one who always has my best interest in mind. There's one who always has my best interest in the very front of his mind. There's someone that loves me unconditionally. There's someone that loves me no matter what happened in this world. There's someone that gave his life for me, who shed his blood for me, who went the extra mile for me, who sits on the right hand of the Father and still makes intercession for me. And that's Jesus Christ. Now, I've got my race to run, but he's running it with me. And if I look at chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 and 3, he said, wherefore, seeing we're also compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses. Look at what I just read you in chapter 11. Look at all the witnesses that you have. Look at all the examples you have of trust, of great faith that kept running that extra mile when times got tough. Don't you think Moses could have said, hey, you know what? I'm not running for these people anymore. We're just going to go back to Egypt. We're going to go back and suffer them. No, he kept trudging along. What if Sarah said, well, there's no way I can have a baby? That's nonsense. What if she didn't trust in God? Would she have delivered a child? No, she wouldn't have. What if Daniel said, well, you know what? It's over. I'm just going to be eaten up by these lions. Ain't nothing God can do. He'd been a bone. He'd have been chicken wings. He'd have been gone. He'd have been out of there. What if the three Hebrew children said, well, you know what? Today's the day we die. There's nothing God can do. We're going to be incinerated in this fire. The very moment they were thrown in, gone. But they had trust and they had faith in God. Look at Noah. God destroyed the world. Noah and his family is the only ones that found favor in God's eyes. You know why? Because Noah trusted him. Hadn't rained ever upon the earth. People thought he was crazy. People thought, well, you've lost your mind. But Noah trusted God. He believed in God. He believed in the promises. There is nothing in this world that I believe any more than God's promises. I'm telling you what, you can't beat them. They're true. They're going to come to pass. And I can bank on that. And I can know that, you know what, my soul is going to be secure. My place in heaven is going to be secure. That my mansion will be there when I get there. But more importantly, my Jesus will be there. I can see him. I can touch him. I can hug him. You know why? Because I trust him to get me there. By faith, I will get there. By trust, I will get there. The Bible said without faith, it's impossible to please him, isn't it? How can I please God if I don't trust him? How can I please God if I don't have faith in him? I've got to have faith in his word. It never fails. It never fails. Why do you think they fight tooth and nail to remove this from every school, from every job site, from everywhere you go? They try to remove this book because it has authority, it has power, it has guidance, it has salvation. Devil don't want no part of none of that. They don't want you to have faith in God. He don't want you to have faith in him. He even tempted Jesus. What did he try to give him? Food? Power? Offered him all those things. Hey, turn the stones to bread. You know, hey, go ahead and jump off the temple here. Okay, the angels will catch you. You know, he said he wouldn't let you dash your foot against nothing. They'll get you. Hey, just bow down to me and I'll give you all those kingdoms of the world. He wasn't his to begin with. He owns nothing. Now, he may walk around to and fro, but he has nothing to offer today. Don't put your trust in a liar today. He's a liar, a murderer. He's been a liar since the very beginning. Whatever he's telling you, he can't come through on it. Whatever he's promising you, he can't come through on it. So why in the world am I going to let all that weight drag me down and I'm going to miss heaven for a few things, a few minutes of pleasure down here? Let me read this. It said, wherefore, seeing about, we're also compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us. How many's carrying baggage today? Don't raise them hands. How many's carrying weight today? How many come in here with a heavy heart? How many come here with a weight on their shoulders? How many drug sin in here with them? How many come here and say, you know what? Hey, I like this. I'm not ready to let go of this. I saw something very simple, very profound on Facebook yesterday that a friend of ours posted. Yesterday was heavy, put it down. Yesterday was heavy, put it down. Let it go. Start today anew. Start today afresh. Put your trust in Christ and move on today. Lay aside that weight and that sin that so easily beset you. What is keeping you from serving God today? What is keeping you from loving Jesus with your whole heart, your whole mind, and all of your soul? What's keeping you from that? What's keeping you from loving your neighbor the same way you love yourself today? Sin, weight, worry, guilt, shame, all those things. And I saw something funny too. It's a video. It said when somebody invites you to church, they say, my church ain't weird. It's this big guy, big old guy. And he had a board, and he's standing on it, had some chains around his wrist, and that board. And so he's just yanking and just pulling on everything, everybody's cheering him on, the chains broke. And it was funny, but it's true. It really is true. If we trust him today, if we put our faith in him today, now I want to tell you something. Somebody that's never failed, that's never lost a battle. Somebody has never, ever failed to do what he said he's going to do. If we don't do that today, we've lost. And I'm not talking about putting my trust in man. The Bible said to look on our author and the author and finisher of our faith. The author and the finisher of our faith. Our faith begins with him and it ends with him. The trust begins with Jesus and my trust will end with Jesus. Read on a little further. Who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. Endured the cross. And that didn't say he enjoyed it. He endured it. Why? Simply because of love. Simply because of love. Now see, that trust gets to right here. And what the problem was we could only get so far on our own merit. Okay? But what he did, Jesus built a bridge across that gap. And that bridge is called trust. That bridge is called faith. And now I can cross that bridge and get to where he is. Because when I was lost and undone, I couldn't get there. There was nothing I could do. My weight and my sin had dragged me down to the very bottom, and I couldn't do anything. But through his salvation, he built that bridge, that faith, that trust, and now I can cross there to get to where he is. So why wouldn't I trust him today? With my soul, with my salvation, I trust in my family. I trust in my friends. I trust him with my finances. I trust him with this, that, and other. So why wouldn't I trust him with my eternity? Because we're still trying to run the race with weight and sin that drags us down. Why? Because we enjoy it. Because we like it. Now, you may look at me crazy and say, well, that ain't so. Well, how come you let it go? How come you laid it down? How come you let him break the chains and help you today? He said, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds. Now think about that. Despising the shame of the cross, he sat down at the right hand of the Father and is still making intercession for you today. And all he's asking you to do is trust him. He asked Abraham. He asked Isaac. He asked Sarah. He asked Moses. He asked Noah. Gideon, Barak, Samson. All he did was ask to trust him. Just trust me. You ever anybody say, trust me? Trust me. But you know that you can't trust them. You know they got something going on that you just can't trust them. When Jesus tells you to trust him, you can trust him with your eternity. You can trust him with your life. Because let me tell you something. He's been in your shoes before. He knows where you are. He knows what you're going through. Everything in your life today he sees, whether it be good or whether it be bad. And when I read about these heroes of faith, I began to look and I said, you know what? That took a lot of trust to do what they did. It took a lot of faith to leave where you're comfortable with and go somewhere you didn't even know. It took a lot of faith to take your son up to a mountain up there and put him on an altar and get ready to stab him with a knife and trust God to make a way to make a sacrifice. You don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to sacrifice Isaac. And he did. He made a way. It takes a lot of faith, a lot of trust to go out and start gathering up wood to build a boat, and it never rained before, and everybody look at you like you're crazy and mocking you and ridiculing you, and keep hammering nails in and trust God for it to rain. It takes a lot of faith to allow them to deliver you up, put you in a lion's den, and go in there and not have a worry in the world. Next thing you know, he's kicked back on them. The 3 Hebrew boys, they wouldn't bow down. Daniel wouldn't bow down. But God delivered them. So why wouldn't he do the same for us? It comes down to a matter of trust. It comes down to a matter of faith. Faith is what will get us to heaven. Faith is what will deliver us from all these things that are plaguing us today. You know, we talked about in Sunday school, and it's true. Somebody asked the question, can God's plan be changed? Because what we're talking about everything going on in the world today. And Shannon brought up a good point. So we know what the back of the book says. So why? Why try to do anything? Why try to change anything? Why try to say anything? Well, if we don't, how all these lost people will hear about the gospel? How all these people that are ignorant of God's word, how are they going to hear the gospel? How are they going to know what it means to be saved? How are they going to know that salvation? God's plan can be altered. It can be delayed, but it requires God's people coming back to Him and turning their hearts to Him and making Him the most important thing in their life. God can absolutely delay what's coming. It requires us to trust in Him, to believe in Him, to put our faith in Him. We've gotten so far off the course, and Doug made a good point. You know what? That narrow gate, if we trust in Him again and have faith in Him, it might get a little wider. For more people to come through to get to heaven today. Yes, there's something we can do about it. Yes, God can change his heart. Yes, God, he was going to destroy the whole world. But Noah found favor in his eyes. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, did he not? But did he spare a few people? Yes, he did. Because we have a high priest that can be touched with our infirmities, that has felt like we felt, that has been tempted at all points like we can. I can trust him today with my eternity. I can trust him today with my soul because he has walked in my shoes. I can trust him today because he delivered all the heroes of faith. He came through on his promises today. I will promise you this. I'm not going to act like a car salesman. I'm telling you this. I can promise you this, that if you put your trust and your faith in him today, you will not go wrong. If you believe in him today with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, you will not go wrong. I'm not saying you won't stumble. I'm not saying you won't fail sometimes, but I'm telling you, you will not go wrong in trusting him today. Trust the Lord with all thy heart today. Don't lean under your own understanding, because let me tell you something, we're ignorant. We're ignorant. I need his guidance. I need his help. I need him to lead me, to teach me, to help me. I need him today because I'm ignorant apart from him. Trust in God today. Trust in Jesus today. All right? Don't trust man. Trust Jesus today. Allow him to help you today, whatever you're going through. The heroes of faith trust him. You can be a hero of the faith as well. Someday they may talk about you in heaven. Someday they may say, you know what? Hey, Deb, she trusted in the Lord. Hey, she went through a lot, but she trusted in God. And let me tell you something. She made it here. She crossed over here. Oh, Jeff, hey, he trusted in God. Hey, I went through a lot in his life, but he trusted God. And everything he did for the Lord. And look where he's at today. Gathered around, worshiping, praising God. Our faith will get us there today, folks, but we've got to stay focused. We've got to lay aside all the sin, all the weight that deceives beset us. Get rid of all of those things and put your trust in God today. And he'll deliver you. I ask you to stand if as Lisa comes to play.